I was offered a chance to purchase one of these Gratkit smart filament dryers at a reduced price in return for honest feedback and review. So here it is. The first one that arrived actually had a fault with it, but Gratkit immediately put me in touch with one of their engineers who suggested a few things to try, and then when that didn't work they sent me out a replacement. This one is fully working. So in the box you get the dryer itself, you get a power supply, this is a UK one obviously, and you get a spool holder. I've printed out the latest version of the manual, but it does come with a quick start guide. So you have two choices with putting filament in this. There are the traditional type of rollers at the bottom that run on the rim of the spool, but there is also this drop-in spool holder that sits there like that and keeps the spool elevated off of the rollers. I think that's a great combination of options. Now, one thing to say, if you receive one of these and you have any problems, this cable here could be at fault. So before you pack it up and send it back, contact them. There's a few things you can try that may resolve the issue. Now, there's all sorts of fancy features, but I noticed when it arrived that on the back we have a USB port. So I instantly thought, brilliant, I can use this to power some LED lights on one of my printers, or maybe it'll even have enough juice to run a Pi or something. I couldn't see any reference to it in the instructions, so I spoke to their engineer, and this is actually a leftover from when they were developing it. So you mustn't plug anything into there. On the versions like this, you still get a USB symbol on the screen. I'll show you in a minute, but it is a leftover from the development phase. It's used for accessing the main board while they were setting it up, so don't plug anything into it or try to use it to draw power. And the only other port you have on the back is your power plug here, and then here you have one outlet for filament, and there's another one further up just here. And all your controls are on this panel here, which is inset into the lid, which is quite handy. It's all touch sensitive. So let's plug it in and fire it up. Excuse me. I'm just going to bring in the other camera, hopefully it can see what the screen says. So there we go. So yes, this USB icon will be disappearing from newer models, and at the moment you can see PLA is flashing. That tells you which filament it's set to. It has, was it 8 defaults I think? PLA, PLA+, PETG, ABS, nylon, polycarbonate, HIPS and TPU. And then it has two other options. Yeah, it's a bit blurry. DIY 1, DIY 2, where you can add to the presets with your own preferences. So once it's booted up like this, you select your filament. So let's say I was doing PLA, you just tap that button and it starts to heat up. And now there's the really cool function. It has LEDs in it. You can have a static colour, you can have a rainbow shift like this, and there's a few other options. Now obviously it dries filament much better with RGB than without, as anyone will tell you. You cannot have enough RGB on tech. So you can either control it using these buttons here, or there is a smart app for it. Once you set it up, it's quite handy. It's got buttons for changing the filament, setting the temperatures and turning it on and off and everything, and changing the colour mode. Unfortunately, don't do what I did. Once you've paired it to one device, don't try and pair it to a second device. I got it working on my phone, and then I fired up my tablet, tried to connect it to that, and I've now managed to completely scramble the connections so neither will work properly with it. I'll come back and sort that out at some point, but it's not really a big thing for me. I can prod at these buttons when I need to. But the app does make it nice and convenient for checking in on it and changing your temperatures and everything. Okay, so let's just show you the two different options for putting a spool in there. It's not quiet, but that is because it has an active fan in there. So here we've got just the traditional cardboard spool. Now obviously it won't roll because I've got a clip on it, but if you want to print from the box, you can sit it on the rollers, it will turn fine, or you can drop the centre spool in and then it will sit on that, which gives you plenty of options for different spools. I do have some older Yusu filament spools that are weirdly wide. I mean, you can see compared to like a normal spool, they're quite a bit wider and they just do not fit in here. That's not a fault with the dryer or anything. I can just get these into a Sunlu, I think it's an S1 dryer, but I've got a Sovol 2 spool dryer and they don't sit on the rollers right in that either. So it's just about these spools being over wide. Every other spool I've chucked at it works fine. So there you go, you drop it like that and that is now drying away. You have a display on the front that shows you all sorts of information. Over here there's the activity icon, tells you it's running. Here's your fan speed, your moisture indicator, chamber temperature and amount of time remaining. It also has a very clever feature that if this gets knocked over it stops drying. So let's move that camera out of the way and I'll show you. Having messed about with this, I've worked out it's roughly a 45-degree tilt in any direction. So let's say this gets knocked and it goes over. There you go, it's listed an error on the screen. And now it's stopping the heating process. So to restart the heating process, you press the button again. And it tilts in all directions. So it's a handy feature. I mean, generally you don't really kick these things about, but there you go, it's shut off. The fan's running just to cool it down, but the temperature's stopped heating. And again, you just tap it like that to turn it on. So I am very impressed with this. I wouldn't have bought a dryer specifically for app functionality or, joking aside, RGB lights. But to have one that has all that information at your fingertips and you can just click through different options is a really good idea. So I look forward to seeing how the next iteration of this comes out.